Welcome back to Real Estate 101. I'm your host, Joe Terceira, and today we're going to talk a little bit about condo insurance policies, and I'm pleased to be joined once again by Robert Atto of Atto and Associates. Robert, welcome back to the show.
Joe, thank you very much for having me back again.
So Robert, tell me, why does a buyer need to purchase condominium insurance?
Well, I tell you, there's three good reasons why a purchaser should consider purchasing condominium insurance. Obviously, the first one they're going to come across is they're probably going to get a mortgage for their condominium, and in most cases, the mortgage company is going to insist that you purchase some protection to protect both of your interests. Now, the other good reason you really have to consider, obviously, condominium insurance can be a large purchase, maybe one of the largest purchases you may make in your lifetime, and quite certainly for the low cost of condominium insurance, it's something you'd be crazy not to go without.
Right.
So that on top of another reason, which a lot of people don't consider, is in a condominium insurance, there's a big liability aspect that you should be aware of. For example, I'm going to give you a couple different examples, how even if you think that there's no way there's something going to happen to your unit, that there could be. Simple things such as you get in the bathtub one day and let the water overflow, and next thing you know, you got water down 6 or 7 units and
below you.
Yeah, below you, and you're the one liable. Or quite simply, you could forget to leave you put a pot on the stove and you forget it there, and next thing you know, you have smoke damage to not only your unit but 3 or 4 other units. Now, if you think you're perfect and this may not happen to you, you think about everybody else in that condominium building and the possibility that they could cause damage to you.
Right.
And the last thing you want to do is trying to be able to deal with that type of thing with your neighbors. So purchasing a policy makes sense. It's the right thing to do.
So what are the standard coverages normally found under a condo policy?
Well, condominium policies were designed by insurance companies, especially for condominium owners. As you know, when you purchase a condominium policy, there's a condo corporation which is responsible to take care of the building and common elements of the property. So the condominium policy breaks down as follows. So the first thing would be your contents, and that will cover your personal contents.
Right.
The next thing to consider under that would be additional living expenses. What additional living expenses are? It's if there is a fire in your home or something that would cause you to be unable to occupy your home, that would provide you with a place to live while yours is being fixed due to a claim. Some other coverages, standard on a condominium policy that people might not be aware of, is that there's contingency coverage in case your condominium corporation does not adequately insure your building, and you could be responsible as part of that corporation for some of those costs, which could be astronomical. The other things protect you against, and this is one thing you have to consider a little carefully, is improvements and betterments made to your unit. What that means is each condominium corporation normally builds the unit the same. So they put carpeting, standard cabinets and fixtures and furnishings and paint. So everything you do as a unit owner or that the previous unit owner that you may have purchased the unit from is considered improvement and betterment. So for example, if there was carpet in there and now you put in hardwood, that hardwood would be considered an improvement and wouldn't be covered under the standard condo corporation policy. It would have to be purchased by yourself.
Right.
So those are something that you have to consider and go through and think in your own mind what those improvements are. Standardly, the companies will give you a percentage of the contents amount that you purchase. For example, if you purchase $50,000 in contents, they may give you automatically $75,000 for this type of coverage. But it's something you really have to go through your head and make sure, because some people don't make any changes, some people make a lot. But you really have to consider not only the changes that you made, but the changes that maybe the prior owners changed. So to make sure that when something does happen, that you're adequately protected.
Right.
Of course, another big part of the condo policy is liability coverage, which we talked about earlier, which protects you against really accidental things that may happen, not something you did deliberately, but if you accidentally, as I said, let the water overflow in your bathtub, or let the stove run, or maybe a candle got knocked over by your cat and there's fire damage. So these are things not only to your unit, but to other units where you could be held liable as part of the corporation.
So what information does someone need to obtain a condo policy?
Well, obtain a condo policy is not a lot of information that is required, but there's a few details that you should be aware of before you call your insurance company or broker. One would be the age of the building. That's usually pretty easy to find, and you might even be able to find in the lobby.
Usually you can get that on the MLS listing.
Right, yeah. The other thing might be to find any updates that have done and how old they are. In an older condominium unit, you may want to know that your plumbing has recently been done in the last couple of years, or any electrical work that might have been done. So those are some of the typical things you need. Of course, if you have a mortgage, you need to get the name of your mortgage company and the address to make sure that their interests are listed on the policy, because a lot of times you won't be able to get your money until that's done. Of course, you need the name and the addresses, in case they're different, of all the principal owners of the condominium unit.
Right.
The other thing you may want to consider is getting a copy of the condo corporation policy to make sure that you're aware of all the insurance that you may have to get as an owner. Although most of the time they're standard, sometimes they differ from corporation to corporation.
So how much contents coverage should someone get when they are applying for a condo policy?
Well, as you know, everybody has different tastes, and the amount of contents coverage from one individual to another could vary drastically. What I really suggest for most individuals is go through each room and categorize each room and put a basic value that you feel will be the replacement value of your contents in that room. Not only will this be helpful to determine how much contents you need, if there happens to be a claim, a major fire, this will be a great list to go back to. I mean, the other thing you should always do when you're doing that is remember to take a video camera and go around each room after you move in or before the contents you're moving in, usually after you move in, so you can see any new contents you made a purchase.
Right.
And that'll give you an idea, so you can go back, and God knows it's horrible to remember what's in a room after something happens, and that's the last time you need to do it. So it's simply going each room, putting a value in your head, what the replacement value of that item is, adding all those up should give you a pretty good idea. You could also speak to your company or broker to help you with trying to come up with a more exact limit if you feel uncomfortable.
Right, okay. So are there different types of packages available in condo policies, or are they all standard?
Well, condo policies tend to vary from company to company, but overall, there's a couple different types of packages that you need to consider. One is a comprehensive policy, which is an all-risk policy, which covers, as it says, all risk, subject to standard exclusions. And the other policy is more of a broad form, or named perils policy. The named perils policy covers named perils, as it says, fire, lightning, windstorm, hail, or theft.
Right.
I suggest most clients that the price difference between the two policies is so minimal that they always purchase a comprehensive policy. Comprehensive policies, for example, might pick up mysterious disappearance if something just gets lost and you don't know where it has gone, and this type of thing is covered under a comprehensive policy where it may not be covered under a broad form policy. Those are the two basic types of policies, and I suggest that any client always consider just purchasing a comprehensive policy.
Okay, so why don't you explain to our viewers a little bit about what is a deductible and how does that work?
Okay. A lot of people don't realize when they purchase a policy that there's something on it called a deductible. What a deductible is the amount that you have to pay first in case of a claim. Now, in most cases, a lot of people feel on a property, if somebody else is liable, they may not have to pay this deductible. This is not actually correct. In most cases, you'll end up having to pay the deductible. The reasons company put these deductibles on the policy is normally to avoid putting in small claims. Your policy is meant to protect you in case of a major catastrophe, and that's what you should look at your policy as.
Right, okay. So do you have any tips for our viewers today on how they can reduce their cost of their condo insurance policy or premiums?
The first thing I can tell anybody is always be honest and tell everybody, first of all, because saving a few dollars on a policy just to state an inaccurate fact does not make any sense. But there's lots of different ways you can save policies, and talking about different safety measures you have in the house, you should always mention as many as you have. I'm going to say, for example, if you have a monitored alarm, most companies will provide you with a 5 to 15% discount depending on whether you have a monitored alarm. The other thing would be the amount of smoke detectors you have. The other thing you should make sure to remember is if a lot of companies might offer a discount for a non-smoker or a non-drinker, what it means to be not smoking is it means you don't smoke on the property anywhere. So these are a few type of things, but it's best to give your insurance company and our broker as much information as available, as for today all the policies are really tailored to each individual. So the more information you provide, believe it or not, will probably provide a policy that's cheaper for you.
Okay.
Right?
So, all right, so when, let's say one of our viewers is looking or shopping for a condo policy, what should they look for in a company or a brokerage when trying to get a new condo policy?
Well, I think the most important thing is don't just pick up the phone book and call one person. What you have to do is start to ask questions and feel comfortable with the person you're dealing with. It's not only important to feel comfortable with them, because when they have a claim, you don't want to deal with somebody that you feel has never properly answered your questions in the first place. The other thing is to try to make sure the company you're dealing with is, in my opinion, a well-financed company, well-known, so that you know when the time comes that you won't have any issues with your policy.
Okay, so for today's final question, do you have any last tips or any last advice for our viewers in regards to condo policies?
What I'd like to say is make sure that you read what you're purchasing. Every policy contains special limitations, exclusions, conditions that may affect you when you're purchasing policy. It may affect the amount you're paid. I mean, you should be careful to review, and if you have questions, to ask your broker or company why this is or what does this mean. Because when you're purchasing policy, that's when you have to know, not after.
Not after.
Yeah.
All right, Rob, good stuff.
All right.
Thanks for coming on today's show. Looking forward to seeing you again next month.
And thanks for having me.
If anybody has any more questions or would like more information on condo insurance policies, they can get in contact with Atto and Associates. Thanks for watching. I'm your host, Joe Terceira, and we'll see you next time.